costs are different, the construction costs are different, et cetera. You know, that would cost a couple $2 billion to do in the United States.
Yeah.
Most owners aren't gonna do a hotel in a cavern.
Yeah.
A cave room.
Okay. A hole.
Big hole
Big
in
hole
the
in the
wall.
wall. There's an actual terminology for that, which I forgot already.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, Chris. You had a question?
Just another sidebar.
Yeah.
The first Crown Plaza was right here in Memphis, downtown, 1985.
Wealth of knowledge over here. Historical
It's
knowledge.
now the
That's
Sheraton.
pretty much-
Just so
Yeah.
you folks know where it is.
Yeah. So very cool. Any other questions? You guys are really doing really good with these questions, by the way. You're asking a lot more questions than a normal new hire would ask. So I'm already very impressed with you. Any other questions about any of the brands I presented to you guys? Anything in relation to IHG that you may want to know a little bit more about? No? Okay. I think Arthur has maybe a couple of words to say, maybe like
Yeah, I
a,
mean-
couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, unfortunately, because we have a flight to catch, we had to kind of abbreviate this a little bit. So, I won't, you know, try to go through the entire thing, but I'll say to you guys, first of all, you guys are all undergraduates, right? So are you freshmen, what are?
Primarily sophomore.
Okay, so you're sophomores, so you've been starting to be exposed to things. Sorry. A couple of things I would say to you, for those of you that have been to an office like IHG, how many of you were down at IHG's headquarters? Okay. Honestly, it can be a little intimidating. Okay, we have 2,500 people in that office, and that's just in corporate staff. That doesn't include the 1,000 of employees that we have that are all field-based. So I have 125 people in my organization. About 55 of them sit in that building on the 31st floor. The rest of them all sit in various locations, but you know, navigating that and understanding that sometimes in our business is really hard to do. So what I've said to every group that we talk to, and I know Chris, you heard this already, is that you know, the hotel business is a business first and hotel second, right? So the training that you're gonna get here gives you guys a tremendous leg up on what you need to know as how the business world works in a hotel. That's a huge advantage. But you also need to spend time understanding, you know, here when you visit offices, when you build hotels, is how does all that stuff interconnect with how hotel companies, as a company, make decisions, right? IHG is a huge publicly traded company. We're a $12 billion capitalized company. We're a publicly traded, so we're on the stock exchange, we're on the FTSE in London, just like Marriott is a publicly traded company, Hilton, et cetera. Working in a publicly traded company is very different from working with an independently owned hotel or company, family owned, one hotel, et cetera. Big organizations like IHG can put and showcase things like this. They can have people like Saka who are dedicated to this. And so one of the advantages of paying attention in your career to big management companies, big ownership groups, or big brand and operators like IHG, Hilton, Marriott, Wyndham, Hyatt, et cetera, is that they can give you the kind of resources that you don't get when you work for a small independent company. So, for example, most Holiday Inns in the United States are not managed by IHG or Holiday Inn. They're managed by a local owner or they're managed by a management company. They happen to have the flag on the building. So if you look at a Holiday Inn nearby here, it's probably not run by IHG per se. It's got the IHG flag on it. When Saka's talking to you, we're really talking about the IHG Corporation, the 200 plus hotels that we manage in the Americas, over 700 worldwide. We're a huge player in the management area, but we don't run the hotels that are franchised. We give them standards. We ask them to adhere to that. If they don't, we have the option to throw them out of the system because we inspect them, we have quality evaluations, we have thousands and hundreds of thousands of guest surveys that come out, so we know when there's a problem, and we have hundreds of people literally who support them, including my entire department. So there's hundreds of people that support all hotels, whether they're franchised or they're managed. But in a franchise environment, working for that independent owner can only offer so many things to an employee because they don't have deep pockets and they don't have deep resources. They do not have a training department. They probably don't have all the procedures. And IHG, because of the labor laws in the United States, we don't dictate all hiring practices in a franchise estate. We're not allowed to do that, right? In a managed estate, we are allowed to do those type of things. So when Saka and I are talking about with you, it's corporate, it's managed hotels, hundreds of hotels, IHG Army is all managed, big intercontinentals in the United States we manage, Crown Plazas, et cetera, and about 80 Staybridges and Candlewoods, even hotels, et cetera. But the difference there is that because we're running them, we can provide all those resources, all those tools, all that expertise that you can't get necessarily in a franchise hotel, unless they happen to be managed by a huge company like an Interstate, okay, which manages around 600 plus hotels around the world. So Interstate doesn't own the hotels, they're based out of Virginia, but they manage the hotels, right? So the owner hires that company to come in and manage their hotels. So an organization like that is gonna have deep pockets and resources to provide training, to provide career mobility, to create cultures, et cetera, because they've got thousands and thousands of employees working under them. One independent Holiday Inn owned by Mr. Smith, making the name up, who owns a Holiday Inn, can only do what one owner is able to do. So as you think about your career in the future, you've got a huge leg up because you're coming out of a great hotel school. Remember that decisions you make in the future should be based upon what career do you want, not what job do you want. Because in our business, what I've found over the years is there are hundreds and hundreds of management companies out there. Most of them I wouldn't be caught dead working for, okay? Because they have no resources, they have no infrastructure, and typically they don't have really any training. And so a company that manages 1 or 2, 3 hotels, they're not gonna have a lot of resources to provide to give you the support that you need to grow in your career. Big companies can do that, right? So there are management companies that are very good at what they do, and yes, you can learn things in a smaller independent hotel, but if you want to progress in that place, you're progressing within that one box, right? That one hotel. And the only way you're really going to progress out of that is by leaving that to go to another company that has more assets, more hotels for you to move up into. So just something to think about, right? You look at IHG, the corporation, when I know some of you were down there, I mean, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of departments that exist within that building. And there are hundreds of departments that exist all over the world. So, I mean, there are, probably a dozen major functional areas in our company, like sales, revenue management, brands and marketing, operations that I fall under, legal, et cetera. But within all those groups are literally dozens and dozens of subcategories of departments, each of which has its own specialty. So what you do here is you're gonna get a great overview of the industry, the hotels, you're gonna understand that, but then it gets confusing sometimes when you look at corporations, and when I've had the class from here, actually, not you guys, but other classes in the past come to Atlanta, and I spent 3 hours one time in a meeting room with them, with me, one-on-one, in a conference room, in a boardroom, and I started drawing out all the departments, and I think their heads wanted to explode. Because they literally start going, my God, we had no idea there were so many departments, so complicated, a department for literally everything. So if you decided you wanted to go into human resources because you wanted to do something along what Saka does, there's 35 different departments that report up into human resources. From comp and benefits, performance management, talent development.
Yep.
I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. If you wanted to be in legal, there's functional experts in all kinds of things legal. Finance is a huge area. Finance at the hotel level in the form of accountants. But then people in the corporate office level that have to oversee finances for the company and for portfolios and for owners. Operations is obviously a huge area. So you guys are learning what hotels do, but then there's a whole infrastructure that has to support what all those hotel people do at a corporate office level, right? So that's what we do. We support the field. We exist because there are hotels that are out there. If all the hotels went away, people like me wouldn't need to be there, right? I actually have a saying, I tell my folks that there's 2 types of people in the business. There are people who are in a hotel, who every day are checking guests in, cleaning rooms, maintaining rooms, and then the other type of person in the hotel business, you know what that is? All the people who support them. And if you're not one of the 2, you're probably not in the right business. Because there's not a person in Atlanta that I don't say to them, the only reason that you exist in this building is because we have hotels and employees in the field that need the support from somebody sitting in a corporate office. Corporate offices do not generate the revenue, the hotels generate the revenue, and we support the people who generate the revenue. Make sense? So one other thing just for you guys to consider is when you're out there, make sure you understand kind of the dynamics of, what's the structure of the ownership group you're talking to? Is it an independent owner? If you're talking to a management company, is it a larger management company, or is it a real small one where if they lose one hotel, you go with them because they now all of a sudden lost 50% of their revenue? Are you getting into a good management company where they have good training programs like an IHG? You should be interviewing people as much as they're interviewing you, has always been my view, right? An interview with an employee is as much about you asking them questions, it is about them asking you questions about how you're gonna perform. And that's the way you should do it. And it is a little intimidating to interview because interviewing is a skill. And I've said this to folks here, Radesh, et cetera, a number of people, that's something that our business needs to work on, is helping people understand how to present themselves and how to interview, because there is a skill set involved in doing that. And it's not always easy, and it does take time. So anyway, any quick questions for me? I mean, SOC, I know, did the overview of all of our brands and et cetera, but anything you guys want to kind of lob at me? Sir?
So like you were saying with seeing that IHG mostly does franchising, and it's 80% of IHG is franchised, and
Actually, more than that.
more than that?
Yeah, in America.